up? It's me, Darren, and I'm out here in my living room. Actually, we're in my little office. This is kind of a middle room in my house. I use it sort of a dressing room and got an office, a little desk in here. But we are celebrating Vlogmas this year during December, every single day since December the 1st. I've been coming out here and visiting with you guys and discussing mostly Christmas themed topics. We talked about how to be conversational during the holidays. One day I told you about all of the festive Trader Joe's items, and I showed them to you, and it was a lot of fun. People have been stopping by. We met people around the world, people from France, Portugal, England, and everything else have been coming out here and visiting. So it has been worthwhile, and it's been helping my watch time hours out tremendously. So the hardest part about doing these lives is we got to wait for people to show up. So I've got to ramble on a bit. So we're going to do that for you. So every day has a name. Every day's got a number. Today is Monday. It's Monday, guys. And it is December the 9th. It's Monday, December the 9th. And we are celebrating Vlogmas. And like I said before, it means we've been coming on here every day. Hey, Lori, what's up? Thanks for coming. I think we've got a good topic tonight, but we haven't gotten there yet because really what we're doing is what I heard somebody else call Flopmas, because I don't know if I could really make it this whole time coming on here every single day. When I don't come, I do try to post a long-term video or a short. So, Lori, guess what? Today's a lucky night because last night, we talked about Christmas in 1999. We went back in time. We talked about what was popular back then in the news, in entertainment, popular gifts. In 1999, I was going to do Christmas in the year 2000, because that sounded more exciting, and I'm old enough to remember when the year 2000 sounded like science fiction. But I went with the year before that because we talked about the Y2K concerns and how people were scared about it. But tonight, this was suggested in the group. Wouldn't it be fun and a little bit exciting if we talk about what Christmas was like in 1985? We're going back in time to 1985 tonight and go on a nostalgic journey. Got some older people here. We got some younger ones. Some of you may remember Christmas 95. Some of you may not have been born yet. And some of you, that's way old news. But for me, I was there to experience it. I think I was in high school. I don't know what I was doing back then. I think I was still in high school. But here, we're taking a nostalgic trip back to Christmas season 1985. Whether you lived through it or are just curious about what the holidays were like, nearly 40 years ago, we're going to dive deep into what made Christmas 1985 so special. Think about it. The world was different then. Big hair, cassette tapes. Remember that? We had cassette tapes. We didn't even have CDs back then. We would record music with a big old contraption. If you wanted to record a song, you had to record it off the radio sometimes. That's how we listened to music back then. Neon fashion was all the rage. I used to wear neon, believe it or not. Didn't wear black back then. I was wearing a bright orange neon shirt, bright orange neon green. That was stylish. Parachute pants. That was the style. What if it came back? So that was kind of exciting. That was the rage. Families gathered around their TVs. Had one big TV back then, right there in your living room, and everybody sat around it and watched it together. Unwrapping some of the most memorable toys at all time, decorating their homes with styles that define the 80s. And it was fun. World events and cultural moments shaped how we celebrated that year. So grab some eggnog, sit by a virtual fireplace, and let's journey back to a simpler time when Teddy Ruxpin told us bedtime stories. I was too old for that. I was a little adult. But Back to the Future was a popular movie. It made us dream of time travel and trees sparkle with those big old giant bulbs back then. We'll talk about everything tonight. Popular toys, music, TV shows, big news stories, festive commercials, and even decorating trends. So I think this is going to be a good talk. Maybe somebody's going to show up, maybe they won't. And if they don't, I've got some stuff written down because I did research today. I did some research. Yeah, I did a poll about what time people wanted me to be here. You said 9, so here we are at 9 o'clock. And last night was a good one. A bunch of people showed up. So we could kind of wait if you want to, but let's dive into this. And if they miss it, the people that watch the replay can watch it and enjoy it. You know, I'm doing all these lives. I should probably just do a real video because this stuff is good quality stuff, and we're just doing it on lives. So Christmas 1985 was a big year for toys. Technology was starting to be a big feature in them. One of the number one toys in 1985 was Teddy Ruxpin. I remember when that came out. I was not that age. I was probably in high school. But I remember the commercials. I remember the cassette tapes. I've seen Teddy Ruxpin. This animatronic bear could tell stories, and it used a cassette tape. I think you were probably my age. I don't know how old you were, Lori, at this point. But I was old. And his mouth and eyes moved, which was magical, but a little creepy for kids. Teddy Ruxpin was a little creepy. It was, that was one of the toys. Every year, I don't know if it's still like this or not. There was always one toy that was hard to get, and all the parents would rush from store to store. They would fight for the toy. And that year, the big toy was Teddy Ruxpin. I remember Tickle Me Elmo later. That's the first one I remember that people were fighting for. That was probably in the 90s, but in the 80s, in 1985, Teddy Ruxpin. And get this, guess what else happened in 1985? The Nintendo Entertainment System. That debuted in 1985. The very first Nintendo was released. And I do remember that. I think I had one. I didn't get it right off the bat. It was bundled. Get this. When you bought that Nintendo, it actually came with Duck Hunt and Super Mario Brothers. It came with 2 games. They don't sell entertainment systems now with 2 games. You remember the gun? It came with a gun and all kind of stuff. And that console revolutionized gaming. And it made its way into many kids' Christmas lists. I didn't really get one for Christmas that year. I got it later when it was popular. But this was a major leap forward in gaming. Okay, when I was a kid, when I was a young man that age, I had Pong. I remember my sister and I in the 70s got Pong, and that was a big deal back then. I remember getting the Atari 2600. I'm that old. So when I was like 10 or 11 or 12, I that's what I had. But you know, when that Nintendo came out, I did eventually get it. And it introduced characters such as Mario and Luigi. And I always liked Luigi. I thought he was cool because when he jumped, he kind of floated around because he was light. And that was a fun game. I remember playing Mario Brothers. But that actually came out in Nintendo. So if you're a kid in 1985 and you got a Nintendo Entertainment System for Christmas, you were probably the most popular kid in the neighborhood. And all the other kids would come to your house and play. Yeah, I did write about Cabbage Patch Kids. That was a popular toy back then. Cabbage Patch Kids were actually released in 1983. So they were actually released 2 years before 1985, but they were still popular. They were still riding that popularity. These dolls were cherished for their uniqueness. Many kids had vivid memories of them. You know who one of our good friends, a friend of the channel. What's going on, Wild Bill? Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're talking about Christmas 1985. You know who loves Cabbage Patch dolls? Our friend Tiffany. She still has one today. We talked about that before, but Cabbage Patch dolls were released in 1983. They were still popular. Yeah, send one. Well, I'll post it on my communities tab. Thank you. I'd love it. And Cabbage Patch Kids, you would unbox the kid. They would have an adoption certificate. It came with an adoption certificate. And this was another toy that even in 1985, it was still hard to get. They had certain ones that every parent wanted, and they would camp out in the stores and try to get their kid a Cabbage Patch doll, because if you didn't get that, your kid would be upset. So Wild Bill, in case you missed it, we talked about Teddy Ruxpin. See, Wild Bill's around my age. We were a little too old for these toys. Teddy Ruxpin was a popular toy. It had a cassette tape. Nintendo. I don't think Wild Bill played video games, but I played them, and I had a Nintendo. Lori said she had 26 Cabbage Patch dolls. Wow, you were a spoiled child. That would take up a whole room. Your parents must have loved you. That's a lot of Cabbage Patch toys. Now, I had a cousin, a younger cousin. He's around 10 years younger than me. And I remember this, another famous toy from 1985 were Transformers. I remember Transformers. They were little vehicles, but they turned into trucks. Lori said she had doll shelves. Yeah. See, when I was a kid, I had I did have shelves. I had little Star Trek people, Star Wars. But that's another decade. We're going to talk about another decade, and we're going to talk about Star Wars toys and such. But tonight we're in the 80s. That weren't as popular back then. But yeah, Transformers, little vehicles, they turn into robots. More than meets the eye. Transformers toys captures kids' imagination because they combined action figures with puzzles, transforming from cars or jets to robots. And they also had a cartoon series. This was the point in history where they would make a cartoon series to sell toys. And even though I was older, in high school, at this time, I did watch that Transformers cartoon. It came on at 3:30 in the afternoon. I think Scatman Crothers did a voice of one of them. And if you don't know who Scatman Crothers is, look him up. He's a really cool uh, person. He did a voice. He also did the voice of Hong Kong Phooey, which is a cartoon that I loved when I was a kid. Hong Kong Phooey was a dog who was also a crime fighter. He had a secret life. And then I also wrote about G.I. Joe figures. This was a favorite among boys. These figures let kids imagine epic battles. G.I. Joe's success in 1985 was tied to its cartoon series and comic books. When I was a young man, I had a big old tall G.I. Joe figure. Toys were different. When I was a kid, had a little dog tag and you could pull it out and he would talk and he had real hair. But back then, action figures changed. They were smaller and they had a cartoon about them. And this was another one. It was an iconic toy of the decade. And those are all the toys I remember from the 1985. If you got another one, you can talk about it. I know you had all those Cabbage Patch dolls. I don't know what girls loved back then. But that is what I remember. And we could talk about popular movies of the time. Now, I know young or old, if you were around that time, you remember these movies. The holiday season of 1985 featured some unforgettable movies, and these movies are still beloved today. Number one, Back to the Future. Back to the Future was released earlier in 1985. That's how old that movie is. And it was still making waves by Christmas. Still popular at Christmas time. Michael J. Fox's portrayal of Marty McFly, the iconic DeLorean time machine. How exciting. And remember that theme song, Power of Love. Now, I do remember that song, The Power of Love. And I was in high school. That was a popular song back then. Who sung that? I forget. Should have wrote that down for you guys. Huey Lewis, right? Huey Lewis wrote that and sang it. Huey Lewis in the News. Remember him? Popular musician. Yeah, it was like you could imagine going back in time and meeting your parents when they were little and in high school and seeing how different they were. And in the movie, he kept his parents from meeting and falling in love, and he had to try to get history back to normal. And I remember seeing that movie. It was so good. Crispin Glover was in it. One of my favorite actors. He was the very first one here. Laurie says, in Sears, there was a contest to see who would get the first Cabbage Patch Kid. Wow, you got the first Cabbage Patch Kid from Sears? That's pretty wild. See, that's something I didn't know about the 80s. I didn't ever, when I did research, interesting. Lori saying that in Sears, there was a contest to see who could get the first Cabbage Patch Kid. She got him, and his name was Hugo Sheldon. Fascinating. Yeah, when you after this, I'll post the picture of him. Thank you for sending that, Lori. I'll post it on my communities tab so people can see that cute. Remember the Goonies? That was released that year too, 1985. That was more of a summer movie. It was produced by Spielberg with his treasure hunting plot and quirky characters. Family loved watching the camaraderie among a group of friends, and it became quite a staple to rewatch. See, back in those days, we still had VHS tapes. And a lot of times people would get VHS tapes from movies, and these are movies that people would have gotten on VHS tapes. Didn't have DVDs back then. We had big old cassette players. Wow, he's even in the box. He says, Rocky IV came out. Rocky IV was released right before Christmas that year in 1985. This installment of the Rocky series saw Rocky Balboa face off against an extremely unstoppable Ivan Drago. The Cold War theme was featured in that movie. It resonated with audience and made it a blockbuster during Christmas. Yeah, Rocky 4, that was a good Rocky 4. I was too young to really see Rocky 1 in the theaters, but I remember going to see that. What I remember, what really stood out about that movie was when they showed Rocky. He was training in a barn and he was using natural items. He was using push ups and pull ups on the beams of the barn and running outside. And the Russian, he was getting injections with probably steroids. I'm surprised he was able to box back then. That was probably before they started policing that. But it showed their different training styles. Rocky was actually training in nature. The Russian was in a gym. He had high tech people helping him. And I think Dolph Lundgren played him. That was a good movie. Another movie that was released that year was not National Lampoon's Vacation. That had already been released. It was popular. National Lampoon's European Vacation came out in 1985. The Griswold family's travels abroad made for laughs during 1985. It's not a Christmas movie, but it reflected a comedy style popular at that time. And that was a favorite VHS rental during Christmas of 1985. So that's when people would go to rent movies back then. We didn't have Netflix. We didn't have streaming. We had HBO. We had Cinemax. But you couldn't pick and choose your movie back then. If you wanted to see something specific, you had to go buy the cassette tape. You had to get a VCR. Or you would get it. And a lot of people received movies as gifts that year. I think I may have gotten some movies that year. You know what I was into back then, though? I loved classic movies. My mother would give me Marx Brothers movies. Horse Feathers, Night at the Opera. Wasn't really a trend. It wasn't popular back then, but I liked it because I was kind of a classical kid. And I loved Groucho Marx. So that's kind of what I was into. But these were the popular movies. Television also played a big role in life in the 1980s, and many shows became synonymous with holiday movies. Back then, movies and TV shows always did this, but they all had their Christmas episode, Bringing Up Baby. Laurie's talking about Wuthering Heights. Yeah, back then, remember all the movies, all the TV shows had Christmas episodes? The most popular shows of Christmas, 1985 on TV, The Cosby Show is number one. Now people don't like Bill Cosby. They found out he did terrible things, which we won't talk about here on the Family Channel. But The Cosby Show dominated prime time on Christmas. It was a family sitcom with it was one of the most watched shows in 1985. Wholesome humor, family themes. And I watched that and it came on every Thursday. I watched Bill Cosby and Family. Family Ties, there's Michael J. Fox again. That was number one. Two, NBC was probably the most popular network back then. Michael J. Fox's role as Alex P. Keaton was beloved, heartwarming moments, especially around the holidays. And these shows, Wild Bill says, I have an Atari. All my games were Berserk and Stark. See, you and Wild Bill and Tiffany, they saved their stuff. I gave away all my stuff to lighten the load. I had an Atari too. We may do one about the 70s. If you guys want me to do the 70s next, we can. I can do that tomorrow, and we'll go nostalgia about the 70s. Because the hardest thing about doing Vlogmas is that I have to come up with a Christmas talk every single night for you guys. See, I didn't know if the 70s were too far back. I remember the 70s. I was a kid in the 70s. It was fun. And I know Wild Bill remembers the 70s. I know I do. So yeah, Family Ties, Knight Rider, remember that? I love Knight Rider. Kit, the car, I thought it was so cool. That car talked to him, rode by itself. That was another popular movie in Christmas, 1985. Action-packed series, Kit, the talking car, was still growing strong. It'd been around a while. Back in the 80s, we did something on Saturdays. Smokey and the Bandit. Yeah, we'll talk about that. You're right. That's 70s. We will do 70s. We could have a good time talking about the 70s. Lori said her mom had a Trans Am, but it was gold. That was a popular car back then. So we did something in the 80s that kids don't do anymore. They don't know anything about it. We had Saturday morning cartoons. And every Saturday, we did this in the 70s too. We'd get up and watch cartoons all day, eat a big bowl of cereal. Didn't have school. Shows like He-Man, the Thundercats, the Smurfs, entertained kids on weekend mornings, with many of those shows airing holiday episodes during December. So that was what life was like in the 80s for the most part. And the world was a mix of for the headlines. What was popular in the news? I didn't care about the news in the 80s. Didn't care about it. But Cold War was a big thing. U.S. and Russia, they both had all the nuclear bombs. One could easily blow up the other. President Ronald Reagan and the Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev had just started dialogue to reduce nuclear tensions. Before that, we had a Cold War with Russia. But President Ronald Reagan, who I liked, some people hate him, he marked a world of peace. It was the beginning of a thaw in the Cold War. Live Aid was a big thing. That's when they raised money for Africa. People wanted to save Africa back then. The success, Live Aid, in case we don't know, it was a big musical event. It was a bunch of famous artists at the time performing. That happened earlier in 1985, but it brought attention to famine in Ethiopia. There was a famine over there. You know what? They've been trying to get rid of that famine for years. I think it's still there. But a lot of people focused their holiday giving on international causes. They would be infomercials on television wanting you to donate to Ethiopia and save those kids. I remember they would come on TV. They were so thin. And donate 19 cents a month. It was so cheap. That donate to a kid. And when you did that, that child would send you a picture of himself, and he would write you letters thanking you for helping him out. Now he has food. He could go to school. And that was a big thing. And people would post that letter on their refrigerator. I had a friend. I went to their house, and there was that little African Ethiopian kid with a letter on their refrigerator. And I said, "Who's this kid?" They said, "Oh, that's a kid I'm supporting. That's my kid in Ethiopia. I'm supporting him." So that was a big popular back then. Lori said my daughter Angela is about. Oh, thanks, Angela. I hope you do. I love meeting new subscribers. It's fun out here. I post videos every day from Louisiana culture and events. We go to old homes and go to festivals. My sister just sent me a video from a parade that she went to for Christmas. So we try to do fun, but for December, we've been just going live. It's been easy. We're going live every single day in December, chatting with you guys. Sometimes a lot of people come, sometimes they don't. Either way, we have fun. What was going on in technology back then? I was a computer kid. I had a computer, but a lot of people didn't. The personal computer market was growing. Brands like Apple and IBM, they started introducing home computers. Before that, nobody had computers in their house. It was unprecedented. Computers were big. They were too expensive. People couldn't have one. Computers weren't common in households in 1985, but they were becoming popular. And it was part of the cultural conversation. That's when parents started thinking about maybe we need a home computer. Maybe my kid needs a computer. I think I had one. I would get on those bulletin boards like CompuServe. America Online wasn't popular with that. I was on CompuServe. It was the very first one. All right, guys. Now we're going to our next topic. I should have done this before that other topic. We're going to talk about popular television commercials in 1985. I don't watch television. Angela, what's up? Yeah, zombie baby's here. See, I don't need an Ethiopian child because I'm supporting a real life zombie child. He has been coming on every now and then for the live streams. It's usually past his bedtime. He's tired. And he wasn't around in the 80s. Wasn't born yet. That was 40 years ago. And he was not born yet. He barely remembers 3 years ago. So he doesn't like this topic that much. He wants to know, why am I talking about all this old stuff? He wants to talk about modern things. So maybe tomorrow we'll have a zombie baby topic and he can talk about something he's interested in. But since we're doing this every day, I had to do something a little different. And he's not happy. He's mad. Look at him. He's so mad. He's got growling today. He doesn't like this topic. He wants to know, why are we talking about this? But this is an adult topic today. You know, I have people of all ages that watch my show. I have Gen Alphas here. I have kids that are in elementary school. They'll come on and talk to us. I have people in their 20s, 30s, 40s. And, of course, we got people in our 50s. Not older than that, though. I think, I don't know why. Older people, yeah, so he's not very pleased tonight. He's mad. He's bored. He doesn't want to talk about the 80s. You know, zombies in the 80s, they weren't treated very nice. Thank you. That makes him feel good. Thank you so much. He needs a lot of love. He has a hard time in life. It's hard to be a zombie in day and age. He gets picked on at school. Oh, look, Wild Bill, he says, in 1986, I bought my first car. I was so busy driving around, and that movies were never on my mind. I was into cars back then. Y'all can't see Wild Bill in a movie theater watching a movie. I can see maybe at home you'd watch it, but I went to movies back then, but now at this point in my life, I don't know if I will. I haven't brought Zombie Baby to his first movie yet in the theater. I think he's too young. I don't know if he can sit still, and there's really been no good movies out for him that he's interested in. But eventually I've got to take him to the movie theater. I think the new Snow White movie's coming out. He really likes Rachel Zegler. He thinks she's really cool, and he wants to go see her. He likes that she's so outspoken. So we're going to go see that, but it's not coming out for a while. But yeah, we're going to go. So what were the popular television commercials in 1985? I don't watch commercials now. Nobody watches commercials now because we stream things. But back then, commercials were cool. Thanks, Angela. Thanks for subscribing. I appreciate it. If you got a topic for Vlogmas, let me know. So one of the commercials that was popular in 1985 was Coca-Cola's Mean Joe Green commercial. This classic ad features a football player sharing a Coke with a young fan, remained popular during the holidays, and it emphasized the theme of giving. And I remember this commercial. I don't watch football. I don't know who Mean Joe Green is. I didn't know then. But in that commercial, Mean Joe Green is in this hallway. He's coming back from his game. Sweaty. He probably had a good game. And this kid, hey, Mean Gene, would you like a Coke? And this kid gave that kid a Coke. And Mean Joe Green just guzzled the Coke down. And so Mean Joe Green, he had this sweaty shirt. I don't know what it was. He threw it at the kid. Hey, kid. Threw him his shirt. And I guess if you're a football fan and you're a kid, that would have meant something to you. I wouldn't have wanted that old sweaty shirt. Yeah, Angela, this topic may be before your time. You're probably a little younger. Just bear with us tonight. We're talking about the 80s. It's a long time ago. We talk about various things here, but tonight we're talking about an old Christmas. Project Stargate, what is that, Angela? I have to know what that is. If that's what you want to talk about, we'll do it tomorrow. How about that? I don't know what Project Stargate is. I'm usually thinking about Christmas themes, though, for this month. Yeah, but that Coke commercial from the 70s was real popular. That always replayed every year when they in that circle. Yes, that is absolutely awesome. Hallmark holiday commercials. Hallmark always captured the nostalgia of Christmas with ads about giving meaningful cards. Their commercial almost featured touching moments. Toys R Us had that little jingle everybody loved. Their jingles about being a Toys R Us kid. I remember that. That was fun. It was iconic. It made kids dream of walking through their aisles. What were Christmas decorations like back then in the 1980s? Decorating for the holidays was much a part of the season as giving. We liked flock trees back then. Trees sprayed with artificial snow were a huge trend in the mid 80s. They gave homes a winter wonderland feel, even in warmer climates. Later, it came out that all that flock was toxic, and it was giving people cancer. I'm just kidding. I made that part up. I don't think it was, but it could have been. They loved their flock tree. I hated flock trees back then. I want a green tree. We had big giant bulbs. You don't see those anymore. We didn't have those little white bulbs that we see today. That's real popular. Back then, trees were all colorful. You wanted, I'll be back around to ride back home. All right, Angela, thanks for stopping by. We'll be here every week, every night. Yeah, so we had big bulbs. Colorful bulbs were popular back then. The white bulbs on Christmas trees, that didn't come until like later in the 80s. Homes were decorated with colorful C9 bulbs is what they're called. They're not those little LEDs yet. Didn't have those. They were larger and brighter than the LEDs. And then families started experimenting with synchronized light displays. Uh, we would drape our trees in tinsel. Tinsel is little fine strips. Russia and America can still blow each other away now in 2024. Russia says that they disarmed their missiles, but in reality, they have been building them since 1950, Wild Bill says. Yeah, we are getting back into the Cold War era. It's not as friendly. When Ronald Reagan met with Mikhail Gorbachev, you know, America and Russia were friends, and they were friends for a long time. But Putin, he wants to fight. He wants to take over all those other countries. It's not sitting well with America. You know, we don't talk about my political opinions here, but we were pretty close to World War III. I bet Wild Bill knows about that, and some of you might. We don't know what it's going to be like with Trump in the office. Hopefully not. I loved those tinsels. They don't do those anymore. They were little, very thin strips of silver. And they would drape on the tree. I like that better than a flock tree. They would drape those. It was a common practice. Ended up being a tangled mess. They were metallic garland. You remember the metallic garland that you would drape along the tree? Yeah, send me that picture. I'd appreciate it. Yeah, we would have the tinsels, or you would have garland. It was metallic looking silver. They don't do that anymore. Why not? Bring it back. Bring it back, man. Yeah, they came in packs, and you would just pull them out. It was like spaghetti. Put them all over the tree. Made it shiny. You had those big colorful bulbs, and they would reflect in the garland. That was so much fun. And that's what Christmas in a home looked like. Oh, look, we're going to talk about food now. What's going on, Fun Sharks? How are you today? Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're talking about old-time Christmas, Christmas in the old days. And this is very old to you. This is the 1980s, 40 years ago. Tomorrow, we're going to do something a little more updated. I'm just doing nostalgia today. I know my younger audience isn't going to want to hear about Christmas in the 80s, but we do stuff for everybody here on the channel. And since we're doing it every day, Fun Shorts is a younger gentleman that watches my channel. And we do get people of all ages that come out here and love us. Zombie Baby loves everybody. Yeah, 1980. I would encourage you to go watch some 1980s movies. I bet Fun Shorts, have you seen Back to the Future? I think that's a movie kids would still enjoy. That was released in 1985. So what did they eat in 1985? What was Christmas dinner like 40 years ago? Holiday feast included turkey and ham, mashed potatoes, green bean casserole, cranberry sauce. Desserts like pumpkin pie, sugar cookies were staples. And dare I say, we still eat that today. So actually, the Christmas meal hasn't changed that much. So that's good to know. Guess what else was becoming popular in the 1980s? I bet Fun Shorts cannot remember a time without a microwave oven. Not everybody had a microwave in the 1980s. Microwave ovens were becoming popular. By then, more households had one. In the 70s, 5 years before this, not everybody had a microwave. But now, pre-made meals, pre-made sides, and frozen desserts became making an appearance. Did you know at school, 2 kids were suspended? What happened, Fun Shorts? Why'd they get suspended? What did those kids do? And they're younger children. What did they do? I'm curious. How did they get suspended? Fun Short says 2 kids at his school got suspended. Let's hear this story. I'm curious. they were fighting, but we were in two graph. Oh, they were fighting. Why would you fight at Christmas time? That's crazy. What were they fighting about, I wonder? Life's too short to fight. Yeah, second grade kids fighting. You must go to a rough school. What are you going to fight about in the second grade? You guys have it made over there. Yeah, you don't have anything to worry about. Do you know what they were fighting about? I'm kind of curious. Maybe one kid called another kid a name. Maybe he insulted his parents or his looks or something. So do you know what they were fighting about? Maybe they're a couple of troublemakers. Yeah, that's terrible. That's terrible that they got fired. Well, at least it wasn't you. At least you weren't involved in it. So that's a good thing. Imagine fighting at Christmas. It's a time of joy. They should be spreading love and acceptance. And there they are fighting at school. They're probably going to get in trouble with their parents. Who knows? Yeah, so in the 1980s, frozen foods were becoming popular because now you got a big microwave in your house and you could heat it up. But before that, 5 years before that, you had to heat it in the oven. Isn't that something? That's what life was like back then. He says, but I was in another teacher's room and I was close to it. Well, I bet it made a lot of excitement in your school. So that was an exciting day, wasn't it? Two kids fighting. And they just got suspended, probably for a week. You know, they're probably glad they're suspended. I mean, when you suspend a kid or somebody from school, they're glad. I'm gonna use side language. That's fine. I know you like talking those different languages. So caroling, Christmas Eve service. A lot of Catholics, they're going to go to midnight mass. They're going to have Christmas Eve and then go using sign language. I got you. Interesting, fun shorts. Very interesting. Community parades were common. Didn't go to any community parades back then, but if you want to see one, my sister went to a community parade for Christmas. It's my most recent video. You can go see it. It's at Broadmoor in Baton Rouge. They had a good time. One of my sister's friend's daughters was dancing in a group called the Beignets, and they went to go see her. What else do we have to talk about? So yeah, so Christmas is focused. I'm going to go make a short real fast. All right, take a look at it when you get it. I subscribe to your page, so I will see your short. I'm looking forward to it. I hope it's a good one. If you guys want to go check out Fun Shorts page, it's under his name, Fun Shorts 344. I've seen some of his stuff. It's entertaining. Yeah, so Christmas was simpler back then. You didn't have technology, family stuff. My parents, we always had a Christmas Eve party. Back then, it was a lot of fun. Where was I living? I don't know if my parents were living in the house now that we're in. It was a simpler time for sure. So I wrote a bonus, guys. Got a bonus. We could talk about fashion trends of 1985 if you're interested in fashion. Fashion in 1985 was bold, colorful, full of personality, making it an essential part of the decade's identity. Neon colors, bold fashions. Now, I remember this. All right. Bold neon hues were so popular. I had a bright neon green shirt. I had a bright yellow, I didn't love yellow too much. I had an orange shirt, and that was all the rage, and big wild patterns. You remember Jam's shorts? They were kind of summery looking. Probably didn't wear those at Christmas. Pinks, greens, yellows, geometric prints. And those were bold fashions. I remember the punk rock scene. I think that came later in the 80s with the spiky hair and such. Because when I was doing research about 1985, I didn't see anything about that. Shoulder pads were very popular back then. Remember this? On Dynasty, the women wore big giant shoulder pads. It was called power dressing. Tailor suits, they had big shoulder pads, especially for women. Because women were just starting to be independent back then. Independent woman. They would be in the business world. They wanted to be manly looking like men. So every lady's outfit had shoulder pads. You were probably too young to dress like that, Lori, and I think I would have been young, but I remember in movies like Dynasty and Dallas, they wore that. Now, denim. I did wear a lot of denim, and I still did way into the 90s. Acid washed jeans. Yes, Fun Sharks, we're live. Live. You are on live right now. Coming in live every single day. That's why we're chatting. That's how I know what you just said. Yeah, so we left acid wash jeans. I did have acid wash jeans in the 80s. Denim jackets. I love my denim jacket. I still have it. Even denim on denim. You had to wear denim pants, denim shirts. Oh, you know what else we did in the 80s? So pants were long. Blue jeans were long. You wouldn't get them hemmed. Now you get your pants hemmed if they're a little too long. Back then you rolled them up. You'd roll your pants up. That was a fashion statement back then. I think I do see that every now and then these days. But that was so trendy. In high school, we all did that. You'd roll your pants up. That was fun. Athleisure was popular back then. You know what else they did? Everybody wanted to work out. Jane Fonda, aerobics. So athleisure was a style. Leggings, leotards, leg warmers. Women's wore those big leg warmers. I remember we had this friend, Susan, we went to a fair. She was wearing big leg warmers, crazy looking. They all made fun of her. And that was streetwear. Jane Fonda brought the fitness craze into everyday life. And that was also a popular videotape people often got. You would watch Jane Fonda do this workout, and people would do it in their living rooms. Reebok, high tops, Converse sneakers, slouchy boots were must-have. And that's just trends of the 1985s. Pop culture this year was filled with iconic moments in music, celebrities, and technology. Madonna was just coming around in the 80s. She was a young lady, a young girl. And 1985 was a big year for Madonna. Material Girl, that was a popular song back then. her breakout movie, Desperately Seeking Susan. Rosanna Arquette was in there. Stephen Wright, a comedian, had a small role. I love that movie. I remember seeing it in the theater. Madonna was so cool back then. She had an edgy style. She wore lace gloves, layered jewelry, and people would dress like her. You would get Madonna clothes for Christmas if you were a young girl. You wanted lace gloves. You wanted her hairstyle. You would get her album for Christmas. You know what was another famous Christmas song released that year was Wham! Last Christmas with George Michael. And that song is still played today. That was released in 1985. It was played non-stop on the radio, non-stop at holiday parties. And that movie, that song, has stood the test of time. It became a Christmas classic. Live Aid was a popular song, brought people together, artists, including Queen, U2, raised money for famine in Ethiopia. And that was a big song back then. Molly Ringwald starred in Breakfast Club earlier that year. Breakfast Club was released. That was so popular even back then at Christmas time. The compact disc was available back then. Yeah, 16 Candles. That was so good. But the movie that came out in 1985 was Breakfast Club. She'd already done that. That was a couple years earlier. She was a good actress. CDs were there. CDs were there. They were in existence. They had been created, but it still wasn't popular back then. Not everybody had a CD player. They definitely weren't in cars. They weren't there. It was a high-tech item. Video cassette recorders became more available. Guess what? I was into videography back then. I had a big, giant Betamax recorder that I would carry around. The camera was so big. Part of it was on my shoulder, and part of it, I had a little thing in my hand. And that's how I made videos back then. I do not have a Betamax player to play those cassettes. Can't even watch them now. But wouldn't it be fun if I got a Betamax player and I played those movies for you guys and put them on my channel? And you can actually see me in 1985. You can see what I was doing. You can see my family. People who have passed away are no longer with us are still there on those videotapes that I can't watch because I don't have a player. Maybe I'll try to find one on eBay. How about that? And I will play those memories for you guys. But that was cool. You know what was a great stocking stuffer, even though it was made earlier, was a Rubik's Cube? In December of 1977, Ted Bundy escaped from jail in Colorado. Yeah, I was thinking we were going to do the 70s, but I realized we did two Christmases from the 90s, and then we did the 80s. Since I do have people that weren't around back then, we should probably do a more topical Christmas theme for the next few days. We'll save the 70s until a couple of weeks because I don't want to just do nostalgia since I do have younger Gen Alphas and other people that come around. You know, my channel's diverse. I'm glad people love it. Rubik's Cube, that was a stop. You know what else? Oh my gosh, I wrote, you remember boom boxes and cassette tapes? Even though CDs were popular, people would walk around with a big boom box. It was around this tall, put it on their shoulder and walk around. I had one. I would just keep it in my room. I forgot about that. Carrying a big old boombox was a sign of coolness, especially for teens. People used cassette tapes, mixtapes, and they became Christmas gifts. If you got a boombox, you were cool. You know what was okay? Here's a popular game back then. What was a popular board game in 1985? It had just came out. Trivial Pursuit. Remember that? Trivial Pursuit's a game. It's all about trivia. Around 4 people could play. You worked your way around the board. They had different topics. Every topic had a color. Board game. See, we didn't have technology back then. Fun shorts like we have now. You didn't have computers. You didn't have an iPad. All we had were board games or battery-operated toys and such. So board games was a big part of family gatherings. When you got together with your family, you're all going to sit around, parents, kids, everybody, and play a board game together. Now, we don't do that. You may play 2 people in a video game, but back then you'd play a board game, and Trivial Pursuit was a popular game that year. It was intellectual. It sparked lively debates and friendly competition. I had that at my house, and we all played Trivial Pursuit together. Those were good times, and that's why people have fond memories. Fun Short says it seems like the worst time of history, of human history. It does seem like it when we talk about it, but it wasn't so bad. You know, it wasn't that bad because we didn't know any different, and yeah. You don't want to sit around with your family and play a board game on a Friday night? That's what you did back then. That's how life was. That's funny. I think that's the funniest thing somebody said in a while. We knew where our hours were because we would look back on our bikes. We're almost done anyway with my notes of this. Then we'll talk about something else. Makeup and hair trends, okay? I remember my sister back then would wear all that blue eyeshadow. Her eyes were all blue up here. We got pictures. Big hair was popular. They had all those musicians, big old poofy hair. Women had big hair all sticking up. They had bangs. Big hair was everything. Hairspray sales soared as men and women teased their hair. Maybe I'll wear 80s hair tomorrow and tease my hair up. Wouldn't that be cool? My hairstyle is more of a 90s look that I still rock. I don't care. Blue eyeshadow. Women wore blue eyeshadow. Heavy hair. I did wear, I used hairspray back then in the 80s. Don't tell anybody. But, that's just what you did. Heavy eyeliner, frosted lipsticks were beauty. Even men wore eyeliner back then. And that is what Christmas was like in 1985. So thanks for going on this wonderful nostalgic journey with me. Fun Short thinks it's the worst time in American history, but it wasn't so bad. We were close to our families, and we spent time together as a unit, and those are fond memories. Here's one thing. I don't love the 80s. I got to be honest with you. A lot of people are more nostalgic about it than I do. The 90s were my time. I was in college. So, yeah, it was a transition between traditional family values and the embrace of technology and consumerism. That was all changing. We went from family values to consumerism and technology. Holidays were simple, even though we didn't have flashy trends. Wasn't flashy, it was traditional. Family gatherings, we had meals, and we spent quality time together. I used to do my hair big all the time. When did you have long hair, Fun Shorts? That's funny. And there we go. I think this was a good topic today. We're going to stick around, though. It's not over. But that's all the notes I have from the 1985. This was a requested topic. Tiffany wanted this topic, but she didn't make it today, and that's perfectly fine. Hey, we don't use profanity here on Fun Shorts, and you're a young man. You shouldn't talk like that. We have a family-friendly channel. You think Zombie Baby wants to hear profanity? He's a kid. We can't use F words here. You trying to get me banned from YouTube? But I'm sorry you lost your game. What were you playing, by the way? Thanks for retracting that message. Yeah, what game were you playing, by the way? Ah. So yeah, Tiffany was here last night. She wanted to talk about the 80s, but she did not make it. Maybe she'll watch the replay. Because I don't really love the 80s. When I think about it, I did like wearing those neon clothes. Now most of my shirts are black. I'm into the darker colors. I need to put more color into my wardrobe. What are you asking for? Gunshots for Christmas? Gunshots? What are you talking about, Lori? I didn't know you guys could retract messages on here. Interesting. Hey, I see a new button here. I'm going to push it and see what it does. Oh, okay. There you go. I see. Let me fix my phone. Yeah, if I could go back to 1985, would I? Would I go back? Ugh. I was living in a small town back then. I don't know what I would do. Family life was a little better. Didn't have many cares in the world. Good idea, Fun Shorts. What are you going to get for Christmas? What are the popular things for Christmas this year? Would I go back to the 90s? Definitely. Nirvana was on the air. Things were fun. The world was changing. If I went back to the 80s, I don't know what I would do. Yeah, I was more into the grunge rock era. I did have hair back then in the 80s. If I went to a different high school, I think I would have enjoyed it better. My town was kind of country. I got along with everybody, though. They liked me good enough. But there was nobody there I could really relate to. I didn't meet common like people until I went to college. And then I met other people like me that were kind of maybe counterculture, maybe more artsy and creative. Oh, yeah, I remember all the women had the bangs. The bangs with the poofy hair. I gotta admit, the 80s bangs look better than the modern day bangs. Sometimes I see people with bangs They're like this short. It doesn't look good on them. I have a friend of mine, cute girl, always was, had great hair, but now she wears these bangs. And she's older. It makes her look so old. I don't know why she wears her hair like that. Of course, I'm not going to say anything. Hopefully, she doesn't see this replay or she'll know I talked about her. But I don't really like bangs that much. Not the modern day bangs. I will never do bangs again. I don't blame you, Lori. Don't do bangs again. Very few women look good in bangs. You have to have a certain type face, a certain type hair, and a certain personality to be able to pull that look off. Otherwise, you're not going to look good. I worked with a woman at Home's house who cut bangs. She looked awful. And she had good hair before that. Didn't look good on her. Well, she thought she was something, though. It was the manager that we talk about sometimes. So I don't know if she's still wearing her hair like that or not. Wait, she got reported. What do you mean by that? Do tell, Laurie. Do tell. I need to know. Reported by who? Reported by what? What were they saying? What were they mad at in the parking lot about her? You know, are we talking about the same girl, the tour guide manager? She plays Kevin like a fiddle, though. They are trying to report the manager because what? Why were they trying to report her? What did she do? Do you know? That's some good tea. The new younger generation calls gossip tea. Spill the tea, Laurie. Spill the tea. They paid a lot about a venue and the manager sucked. That's weird. I wonder how so. Oh, she plays Kevin Kelly like a fiddle. Nothing's gonna happen. And they didn't have a golf course. Well, the tour guide manager doesn't affect all that stuff. They may have been talking about somebody else. The tour, I mean, they probably not going to talk about her, even though they're not going to care. Unless the only thing they can do is go on TripAdvisor and write a bad review. That's the only thing they worried about. And she was drunk. Wow, that's weird. Maybe she'll get fired and I'll go back there. Wouldn't that be nice? If they got a new manager and I'll go straight back. And they called her about something they needed help with in the bar. Well, I don't know if the tour guide manager doesn't have anything to do with that stuff, but it's a great story. I love it. I wish I could know more details about it. Wonder if anybody got fired or heads flew. She couldn't do the change part on the phone or something, and they said she was drunk. That's so funny that she was drunk. Shouldn't drink at work. That's grounds for getting fired, even though it's not grounds for getting fired at home as house. Are you talking about Cheryl, by the way? Because I don't think she has anything to do with that. That's so funny. I hope they write a bad TripAdvisor review. You should have told those people, go on TripAdvisor and write a bad review. That's the only way something's going to happen. That's the only thing. Good for you. I hope they do. I'll go look and see if there's a bad review. How long ago did that happen? How long ago? That's what I want to know. Let's see if there's a bad review about it. Let's see. Let's see. Most recent. No, there's no new reviews. So that's interesting stuff, Lori. Interesting stuff. I wish I could have been there. She said she wanted to talk to the owner. Boy, that's pretty ballsy. Or pretty bold, isn't it? I want to talk to the owner. I don't want to talk to the manager. I want to talk to the owner of the establishment. That is a real Karen there. To want to talk to the owner. Yeah, but there's no new bad reviews on TripAdvisor. Maybe she'll get fired. Maybe he'll have to get a new manager. I mean, she's not qualified to do that job. She just got moved up. She was a tour guide. And that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with it. Good for you, Laurie. Good for you. You should apply for the job. Make that schedule. That's all you need to do. It's a lot of work. I already know. I sure do. I wonder where Tiffany was today. This whole topic was her idea, or we talked about it together last night, but it came out well. Brought back some memories. Who knows what we're going to do tomorrow? Maybe just open lines. We don't know. Maybe I'll do a video. Who knows? Yeah, she's always a lot of fun. Yes, if you sent me those pictures, I'll post them on my communities tab. And people will love them. I'll probably stay at least 2 hours here tonight. Cool, 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 cool. I could actually see them now on my iPad, I think. Oh, that's a weird looking cabbage patch. Oh, is that you as a kid? That's what you look like when you were a little girl? I can't believe those dolls were so popular. How cute, Laurie. I love it. Thanks for sending it. A real little picture. And that's your tree from the 80s. Just like we talked about. Isn't that wild? It's the colorful lights. I forgot to talk about the stars and tinsel. And that's just how we decorated back then. I wish I could share them on here, but everybody go check out my communities tab shortly after this, and we'll talk about it. Thank you so much for sending those pictures. Ah, you have icicles too. Wow. Why do you have these? That's amazing. People are going to love them. Yeah, they're going to love this stuff. And I can send you. Yeah, if we ever do that 70s thing, I decided to put a hold on that. We can't do all nostalgia for various reasons. No, I don't want to pack. I'm not even doing a tree this year. I have the grump tree that I showed you in the Trader Joe's thing. That's the only Christmas decorations I have. Wouldn't it be a good video, though, to show me decorating a tree and all that stuff? I just don't have time to do it this year. If I did, I would film it. I definitely would. So I don't know what we're going to talk about tomorrow, but I'll most likely be here unless something comes up. I don't know what button babies are. Don't have a clue about button babies. Those are girl toys. And I don't remember what my Christmas gifts were in the 80s. Usually books. I loved books back then. I was mostly a fan of Stephen King. So my mother would get me hardback Stephen King books. I still have a lot of them. Videotapes. I love the Marx Brothers movies. Groucho Marx is one of my role models. I can send you a picture. They made them in the 80s. Sure, if you want to. The pictures you have are already good. I love those pictures. It's going to be great to share. I won't even edit them. I'll send them as is. I don't know how many pictures YouTube lets me share, but at once I'll definitely share the baby. I'll share the photo of the tree. And I will share the tinsel. How interesting this chat was tonight. Now that I think about it, the 80s weren't that bad. They were okay. Well, I'll just share them on my YouTube communities tab. I like posting on there. Draws attention to the channel. And I'll put a link to this live feed in case people want to revisit it. I have a house full of history. Yeah, it seems like it. We were talking last night. Every now and then, I get a wild hair that I want to lighten the load, so I donate a lot of stuff. I donated all my old CDs. I wish I still had them. Why did I do it? I don't know. I donated all of my old books. I had softback books going all the way back to high school that I loved. But I donated them all, just like nothing. Books I'll never get back. I wish I still had them. Could have kept them forever. But I was just in a mood. So now when I get in those moods, I tell myself to just think about it for a couple of days and then decide if you want to give them away or not. It's not like I'm moving. It's not like I'm packing things up. I guess you feel like you got to make room for new stuff. You can't live in the past. You got to live in the moment. And I felt like some of that stuff is holding me back. I kept some CDs, like a lot of blues CDs that you can't get anymore. And some local artists that I used to love. But I don't even have a player to play CDs anymore. I used to have one of those 100 disc channel changers for my stereo system. I don't have them. I have a China hutch. I got it from my parents. Got plates in there. Old plates. From when I was married, we picked out China. I don't think the kids today pick out China anymore, like back when we did when we were got married. Back then, when you got married in the old days, when I got married, we would, my ex-wife, of course, we got to pick out a China pattern. I don't know if you did that when you got married, if that was still a thing, but that's what you did back then. And picked out China. Never used it. I don't think we used it once. But I got it. She probably could have taken it in the divorce if she wanted to, but she probably wasn't thinking about it. So there we go. Oh, well, this was a great talk. I loved it. Guess we'll leave a little early tonight because I think we covered everything. We had a wonderful trip back into 1985. I could have done the 80s as a whole, but I thought it would be better just to focus on 1 year. You know, because the 80s, 10 whole years is a long time. People change back then. The world changes in a year. Yeah, Tiffany's a lot of fun. I don't know where she is. She knew we were doing this. Maybe it was because of the time, but Tiffany is an hour behind us. So it'd be 9:54 where she is. She always adds to the time. Angry Boomer, I hear from him. He always comments on my posts, on my videos, but he doesn't really talk. I mean, he doesn't really come to the live streams. So I don't know. I posted that poll to see what time, because, you know, if I had a certain time that everybody loved, you're the only one who talked on there and told me what time you liked. Let's see if anybody else responded to it. Two votes. Somebody said 7 p.m. Central. And you said 9. So there you go. I don't know why there wasn't. People don't care. Somebody said whatever time you want, bro. My friend Carla said that. It's not what every time what works for me is what works for you guys. because I try to do what everybody likes. So we'll wait here 10 more minutes. We'll count down to 10 minutes and then we'll call it a day. I think we discussed everything there was to talk about the 1985 Christmas. Tomorrow, it'll be a whole new reality, a whole new world. We'll talk about a whole different topic. Don't know what. Unless I can produce a video or unless I can produce a short. I don't think I will be able to because I'm working. It's not a lot of beautiful things at the plantation I'm working at now. And since I'm training, I don't have a lot of time to walk around and stuff. Oh, the people there are nice. I love it. It's not as busy as Homeless House or Whitney. The house is more decorated in the early 1800s theme. Between 1791 and 1800 something, early on. They're following the lives of one of the owners, the Duplantis family. And it's decorated when they own the house. And that's not really the best time. You know, it's not the most beautiful time. Very simple. We got the house there. They could walk the grounds. Got the old kitchen, which is external. Got privy there, which could contain 3 people at once. There's a beautiful garden with actual cabbage. You probably saw that picture. There's an old slave cabin there. There's a well. I haven't even walked out to see that stuff. Maybe I will tomorrow. Maybe I'll get a picture of it for you guys. The best thing about it is 9 minutes from my house. I'm already saving a lot of money not buying gas. You know, it takes a lot of gas to drive 30 minutes away every day. So I can't complain too much. One thing I don't like, they have this visitor center that was built around 16 years ago or whatever. It's modern. They went for this modern style. A woman donated like $2.5 million to build this structure, but she wanted it to be modern. She didn't want it to be mistaken for the house. So it was modern 16 years ago. So what was modern 16 years ago is dated now. We talked about the 80s. This building is falling apart. It just doesn't go with the property. And it looks cheap in there. For that money, they could have built this beautiful structure that would have fit with the style of the time that they were representing. But the woman who was donating the money wanted it modern. Why modern? Why would you want a modern structure at an antebellum home? Weird. And it doesn't have a break room in it. Like most buildings are going to have a break room for the employees where you can go heat your food up or do whatever. It doesn't have that. It's weird. But that's what they wanted to do. I can't complain. It's more money. Closer to my house. Yeah, it's got a minimalist look. Minimal. They got all these big glass imported from Germany. Long strips of glass. It just doesn't fit in. It's just not weird. It's weird. It's weird that they did it that way. And they say the guy who built it won awards for it and everything. But they don't take in consideration that it's an antebellum home. Why build some contemporary modern structure there? That is an eyesore. Right now is not a busy time. It's a lot slower. A lot of people that come just want the walking tour and not a tour guide. They still get the boats there and they get those busy days. But it's not busy, they don't care. It's working for the state. These people are getting money no matter what. And that's one good thing about working for the state. You know, there's rules. I'm totally opposite. If it were me, I want to walk myself. I don't want to be on a tour. The big difference is if you get a tour guide, you get to go inside the house. This house, you can go look through the windows and see inside. A lot of people just want to do that and walk around. And there's a map you give them and kind of tell them stories. I mean, I'll see how it works in the long-term scheme of things. But for now, it's not so bad. It's close. I get out at 4 or 4:30. 10 minutes, I'm at my house. Got time to do stuff. If I was working at Home's house, I wouldn't be doing these lives every night. I would be leaving at 8 or 8:30, getting home around 10. You know, because I was working the later shifts over there. I would be in traffic for 40 minutes. Yeah, I would be on my feet the whole time. Most people at other tour places say they can't imagine having to give tour after tour all day. That's how Home's house is run. See, the way Home's house is run and the way they have their things, it was perfect when they had 5 tour guides. It was perfect maybe when it wasn't as busy as it is. But for now, with all that and the way things are, to have a person get there in the morning, do tour after tour after tour all day. See, most places the tour guides have other responsibilities. But anyway, that's them. You know, that's how they want to run things, and it's fine. Well, you know, they have it so everybody does different tours. We get a 30-minute break between each tour. At Home's house, you did get a 30-minute break, but 30 minutes really isn't enough to recuperate. You know, when you're giving a full-on tour like I give. Yeah. But, you know. Yeah, it was so much fun over there. If that manager ever leaves, maybe I'll get to go back. Especially if she's drunk and can't add and stuff. Well, I know she gives tours. Maybe she hides from you. No, she still gives tours. I know that. I mean, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, so that's life. That was just a former chapter in my life. Learned a lot. It was fun. Got the experience. I'm probably better off working closer to home, so saving money on gas. Probably not. She's usually sitting in that little break room. She's usually in the gift shop. Usually walking around with this big old girl called Madison that worked there sometimes. All right, Lori, I guess we'll call it a day. This was a good talk. Thanks for stopping by. We had some interesting memories today. Be back tomorrow, maybe earlier. Who knows? Maybe I'll just post a video on day 10. Seems like I've been doing this for a month. I don't know. It's hard to think of a topic every day. All right. Well, thanks for coming. It was fun. Thanks for getting your daughter to subscribe, and I will post your picture soon. See you next time. Thanks for coming, everybody, whoever else is here.